Dr. Ashkan Jalili, welcome to Life After Impact.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yes, I'm so excited to learn more about this product that you have spent over 11 years developing called CereFLEX AM PM. And I would love to just have you maybe introduce yourself and your background, the work that you do, and what led you to spending that much time really doing a deep dive into creating this product.
For sure. Thank you for the opportunity, Ayla. I really appreciate it. By the way, it's a great program you have created. So I really congratulate you. Bring in really good speakers, fantastic humans that I've seen in my life before. Yes, so thank you for
It's
enriching.
been so much fun. Yes, well,
I
and we've
bet.
been trying to
Yeah.
make this happen for several months now. So
I
here
know,
we
I
are.
know. It's been crazy, but thank you for your patience. Well, the whole thing started about 30 years ago, to be exact, when I was hit as a pedestrian by a car in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And so that kind of put a damper on my goals of becoming a professional soccer player and going to medical school. So I lost my soccer scholarship to a very good university in US. And as a result of that, I sustained a brain injury, which was pretty much, I would say, undiagnosed for a long period of time because I had a few fractures here and there. So back then, 30 years ago, really the medicine wasn't looking at concussions. If you had bleeding in the brain, then therefore you had a brain injury. If you didn't have bleeding, therefore it was all okay. And so for a couple of years, I was just basically lost in the world, not knowing exactly who I am, where I was, dealing with a lot of symptoms, mental health issues, and I didn't know why, because by default, I was a soccer player. That was my identity, and I always fought for 90 minutes, I would not surrender in the field. But then suddenly I was just put in the chair or in the bed. It's like, yeah, you can't really play this thing. And this is your new you. So accept it. Luckily, not luckily, some things happen afterwards with the brain fog, with dizziness every single day, few seizure activities that I had, but fainting on a daily basis that was really dragging me down. And I didn't know where to go, who to see. I was seeing a physio for every day, pretty much 5 days a week uh, for I don't know, about a year and a half. I was seeing a physio, which they basically the only thing they would do is just strengthen the muscles, get rid of the whiplash and the pain, the lumbar fracture, and then the fibular head fracture, just trying to, I guess, rehab me. But nobody looked into my brain because I thought. By the way, I was a newcomer to Canada, so I came from Iran and Spain and then Canada. So I was learning English. Well, I learned English for 4 years before this injury happened. So I kind of lost my command of English, and I didn't know why because I was trying my best to speak the language, but nothing was coming out properly. So that's when I thought that something is wrong with my system. I'm feeling better with my body, my musculature, and everything else, but I am not really doing well. I don't know where I am. I don't know who I am. A little bit moodier than usual. And so I was living by myself at the time, no parents. They were back home in Iran, so I didn't even tell them that I had this issue because they couldn't do anything. But so I kind of dragged it a little bit, and my current wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she saw like how I was transforming from a nice guy to somewhat kind of silent dude, and so it was worrisome. I was referred to a chiropractor when I started going to McMaster University in Ontario. My soccer coach, whom I love dearly because he really changed my life, he said, "Look, you can't play soccer. They told you not to play anymore because you probably something is wrong in your brain because you had a seizure and they don't know where it's coming from. So you also have multiple disc herniations in your lumbar spine, so they're not going to let you play. But why don't you go see this chiropractor in Ontario next to the university, and maybe he can just fix your back and neck or something like that, so you don't keep complaining about your neck pain and back pain." So I went to this guy, didn't believe it because I didn't really know what chiropractors do, to be honest with you. Medical model person that I was. My dad was a doctor, my mom was a nurse. So I really didn't know what chiropractic is, but this guy kind of changed my life in 3.5 weeks, to be exact.
Wow.
And
Wow.
after 2 years, I thought, wait a second, what did he exactly do to give me my life back? And eventually, as I started feeling better and better, I asked him, I said, like, Dr. Thurlow, do you think I can ever go back to play soccer again? Because that was my identity. I mean, I just couldn't bear the
Yeah.
fact that I would never be able to play again. And he said, well, knowing that you almost committed suicide a few months ago, well, that's one way to go. Let me give you another way. How about if you're playing soccer, you're playing the Ontario final of the Ontario games, university games, and your coach says, hey, Ash, I want you to come to the field for 10 minutes. You go in, they're going to cross the ball over, you're going to head the ball, you're going to score, and let's see what happens. You go in, you head the ball, you score the goal, your team wins, you die. Pick. And I'm like, are we winning? It's like, yes. Good, I picked that. So at the end, I figured that what he said essentially is like, if you have a passion and you can't live through your passion, you're a dead person to begin with. So
Mm-hmm.
might as well die standing. And I took that to the heart and I said, so how long would it take for me to come back? And he said, well, you haven't been doing anything for 6 months. This is a really high category football they're going to be playing in the university as varsity. So look, give yourself about 6 months to a year. And I pushed through it. In 4.5 months, I came back and I tried out for the team. And the coach said, hell yeah, come on over. So I got back in.
Wow, wow.
I got
Can I back up a few steps
Sure,
here? Because
sure.
you said you were fainting almost every
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Did the chiropractic alone stop that?
Yes. So I tell you what the diagnosis was. Not that I know. It was cervicogenic vasovagal syncope.
Okay.
So, and it was apparently it's pretty common in our industry. I see it a lot. I mean, not all the time, but once a month, I always have someone with that kind of stuff. There's some little dysautonomia, aggravated by cervical spine. People post whiplash. So yeah, that's basically what it was. But I didn't know. No, but the cardiologist didn't know it. Then the neurologist didn't know it. It's like, okay, you know what? Just keep increasing the dose of your Tegretol or Dilantin, seizure medications. Maybe that's the case. And I was doing that for a year and a half, almost 2 years, until this guy changed everything. And the day that I didn't get a headache when I woke up, I thought I died because it was kind of unknown to me for 2 years not to wake up without a headache. It was just not there. I mean, it was always present. But the day that I woke up, there was no headache after an upper cervical adjustment. I got really anxious. I thought I died. I was like, oh shit, I have very. That was it. This is it. I barely did anything in my life. you know,
Wow. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
it was incredible. So
Waking up with no pain and your first thought is I must be dead.
yeah, yes, that's how I was. I was pretty much conditioned to wake up with pain,
Mm.
and that's why I didn't want to get up, and that's why I was depressed because I thought, ah, I have to deal with this again, and how am I going to deal with it? I just have to hide it. I have to put a different face on and go in, go to the classes, try to absorb as much as I can. It would take me 6 hours studying one paragraph to understand something in biology 101 in university. It was really draining. Nevertheless, I decided to push through it, and I thought what I went through is phenomenal. I better use it. And so I asked Dr. Thurlow, the chiropractor, I was like, look, I really want to do what you do. What should I go through? What am I supposed to do? Where do I go? What kind of universities are there? So he kind of introduced me to a few things, and eventually I did my 2 years of undergrad, and then there were a couple of universities in California that I thought, okay, you know what? I speak Farsi because I'm Persian. I was born in Iran. I speak Farsi. I grew up in Spain, so I speak Spanish and a little bit of English. So, what would be the best market? California, Los Angeles.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I covered. all of it. And so I did the 3 years program at Cleveland Chiropractic College, and I became a chiropractor. However, it was for me to know what else can I do to help myself. And so I went through chiropractic school. I got to meet Dr. Carrick, and from there on, it was a whole different story. It was
Mm.
Dr. Carrick, and then late Dr. John D'Onofrio, who he was an instructor for Irene Gold and associates. They would teach the board review classes, so you can actually do all your, you know, national boards, so you can pass. You would just learn extra. And when I met Dr. D'Onofrio, who was at the time, we're talking about 24 years ago, by the way, he was the president of American Chiropractic Board of Neurology. And so he told me, you need to come and do this neuro courses with Dr. Carrick and Carrick Institute. I said, all right, but the way you speak it, I can't understand because you speak neurology and I'm still like student. It's like, you will learn it. And when you learn it, you'll know what are your shortcomings. And when you know your shortcomings, you'll be able to know how to fix them. And when you fix them, you will laugh all the time. That's how he was. And then I was like, all right, I'm game. So before I took my board part 4, the last month of my graduation, before I graduated, he said, look, I'm going to hire you to teach for me because you're really good at what you do. I was like, Dr. D'Onofrio, I don't do anything. I only study to pass the boards. Like, you don't know anything about yourself, my friend. It's like, okay, fine, no problem. So I started working with him after I graduated, and that's how I got into the neurology of life. And it has been incredible journey.
Well, so he
Incredible.
saw something in you and he was right.
So he saw it better than I did. I had always, because I didn't trust my brain that much, Ayla. I
Mm,
just did not, to be honest with you.
mhm, mhm.
Um, he forced me to see myself from a different perspective, different angle, and then use my little tiny potentials to expand my horizon. And, I forever am grateful to him for opening my eyes and putting me in the path of neurology with Dr. Carrick. Because when I saw him and I thought, oh my God, this is a completely different planet. Completely different planet. And this is going to be great because everything Dr. Carrick was talking about in one of his sessions for students, I'm thinking, wow, he's describing me as a patient. And I have all these things, and he's talking about PMRF, and he's talking about the frontal lobe and the parietal lobe and cerebellum. It's like, oh my God, if I can have access to all those areas he's talking about, I'm going to be a Superman. I'm going to go back to my previous life probably better than before. And so I pursued this since 2000, yeah, 2003, 2004. I started pursuing chiropractic neurology. I was in LA at the time, in Santa Monica, and I started integrating everything that I could learn to improve my own brain, my nervous system, until I came to a point where I thought, all right, this is it. It won't get any faster, any better than this. So there's something missing. There still was something missing. Metabolically, very off. It's like, okay, you know what? I don't get it. I'm doing everything that Dr. Carrick says, Dr. Shadgrove says, Dr. Glenn Zielinski. All these guys were my professors, my teachers, and I was learning from the best. And I'm like, but something is not fitting properly, and I'm still feeling a little foggy. Once in a while, when I played soccer and I headed the ball, stupid, I would get a little dizzy. The day after, I would be a little slower in my speed of reaction,
Mhm,
but I would
mhm.
recover. But it was ongoing, so I thought this cannot be. And then I spoke to a neurologist friend. I said, what do you think if I need any medication for this thing? It's like, I mean, I would just give you back your seizure medications because you never know if you're going to have another seizure because you already have a history of it. It's like, I haven't had a seizure in like 4 or 5 years. Why would I want to go on a medication that was making me dumb, pretty much? And it's like, well, I don't even know. Maybe you should eat more fat and more protein. It's like, and then I started digging in, and this is right around Google time that you start internet, right? I'm
Yep.
talking pretty historically. So I started looking at things, and I was like, oh, ketogenic diet was designed for people with seizure. So what happens if I do that? And I started doing a little bit. I was like, ah, this is too tough for me. I like my mocha on a daily basis, and that kind of stuff. I didn't know anything about nutrition at the time. And then so that prompted me to go back to school and study functional medicine with A4M and then Institute of Functional Medicine. So I went back, did all the 15 modules to learn metabolism, to see what is metabolic capacity that we all talk about in neurology. What is that metabolic capacity? Is it just glucose and oxygen? No, it's a lot more than that. So from there on, I got tickled to take on this new project and create some supplements that is going to help me. Instead of taking 18, 19 supplements a day that they gave me, I would take 4 and it would do the trick. And so I
So
embarked.
in your process of studying functional medicine, you started to take different supplements, and then before you knew
Yes,
it, you kind of had a cupboard full of them.
totally, 100%. And it was disgusting to take 19 supplements a day. It made no sense. There were times that I would feel like, okay, you know what? I'm doing blood tests, I'm doing urine analysis, and I don't see much of a difference in neither the markers of those nor in the way I feel. So, and as a man, I tell you, we're not really in tune with our bodies at all. For much that we love to accept, oh, we're good. I know, no, we don't. It's guaranteed we don't understand our bodies that well. So, but I was looking for that spark. It's like change, but I just didn't see it. And I started kind of playing around with a little bit of, and I started studying more the concussion, the brain injury because of my own issues. And the more I dug in, the more I found out that concussion is actually a metabolic dysfunction. And then eventually we started noticing that, yeah, there's a metabolic cascade that happens during a concussion within the first few seconds where the glucose, you have hyperglucose, so, you have more glucose and then you have downregulation of glucose and then everything just goes in disarray. And the more I started looking into it, I thought, all right, great. So I probably need more ginkgo biloba. I probably need more PQQ, or maybe I need this. And I started playing with this, like, wait a second. This makes no sense. If we're taking all these things to improve the brain synapses, whatever the BDNFs are, or the neurotropics and things of that sort, if your brain doesn't have the proper fuel delivery system, then you're really making very expensive urine because you're not absorbing anything in the system because you don't have the capacity to regulate these cells because there's not enough glucose there. And that's why a lot of people get hypoglycemia and eventually get a lot of craving for carbs. And then they get into this cascade of depression and they don't do well. And so it's like, oh, that's me. Oh my God. So I started playing around with the fuel delivery system based on autonomic nervous system laws. And the moment I started combining few things like, chromium and then Gymnema sylvestre and then a little bit of, different factors, I started playing around with it. And I had one of my very good friends who was a pharmacist. I say, hey, I want you to do this and this and this and this amount as I was studying
Hmm.
functional medicine. And so I started doing that isolated just for glucose, and I noticed a little bit of a change. Then I added alpha lipoic acid, and I was like, oh, well, this is actually better. I can see that I'm not crashing so fast during the day, and I'm on instead of 3 espressos, I need 1. So I'm thinking, oh, we are onto something here. And then I started studying more and more, and I combined few things, and then that's when I realized that we are different people. We in the morning, and then we're very different at night. So our metabolism is very different. And that's when it prompted me to create 2 separate components. One of them being the AM formula, which is more of a performance phase, that it upregulates the system. It prevents you from crashes, allows you to utilize your glucose a lot more efficiently by pushing more ketogenesis into your system. And then the night one is more of a recovery phase where you're going to have more serotonergic pathways kicking in. You have more acetylcholine for memory, which is more a vagus nerve tonifier or neurotransmitter, and then more GABAergic stuff. So then that system would allow you to kind of wind down gently at night. So then you can have the capacity to secrete your own melatonin without relying on exogenous melatonin. And that was a game changer for me. And so, yeah, that's how we got here.
Yeah, yeah. And your formula is very interesting because you definitely, like you mentioned, have support for the acetylcholine neurotransmitter, you've got support for the dopamine, you've got support for serotonin, you just mentioned GABA. So it's almost like all of these ingredients are also supporting all of these neurotransmitters that our brain needs in order to function and to
Got it.
be alert in the morning and relaxed at night.
Totally. Yes. It took, as you said, 11 years and a little bit to really bring it to light. And I tried it, and I was a guinea pig myself because obviously you can't have other people do it. But it worked out beautifully. And during the time, one of my very good patients who was taking lots of formulas for her concussion, she asked me, it's like, look, you have prescribed a lot of the supplements for me, and I was getting it from Apex Energetics and AOR and Standard Process at the time. I combined a few things for my patients here in Vancouver because I had the formula. I created the formula, but I was sitting on it. I was like, you know what? I don't have time. And to be honest with you, and the resources to bring this to the market, it takes so much. And I just want to treat patients. I love treating patients. I love what I do, and I think I do a pretty good, decent job with patients. Like, yeah, I don't want to get into, nutrition. I know a lot about it. I can recommend patients, and there are amazing naturopaths that I work with here in Vancouver. Then I let them be the people with functional medicine background that they can do the better job than me. I always say it. And this patient said, you have a formula? What kind of formula is it? I said, well, it is a formula that worked for me when I was taking this stuff, when I made it. But to be honest with you, it's all of these things you're taking, but in a very specific dosage for patients with brain injuries and post-concussive syndrome. And then eventually I tested them on people, family, with cognitive decline. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. They feel sharper. Everybody's sleeping better at night. And I started sleeping better at night. And I thought, okay, you know what? Maybe I should tell people. And I started talking to a lot of people. And this patient of mine is like, listen, you need to bring this to the market. I'm going to partner up with you. The formula is yours. I'm going to put basically all the logistics are mine. I'm going to do it. You don't have to worry about it. You just practice. And then once a week, we're going to meet and see what we're going to do. So we partnered up and we brought in one of the biggest pharmacists, and a pharmacy chain and wellness pharmacies in Canada called Pure Pharmacies. And the owner is a good friend. I was like, you know what? I love this formula. This is great. This is going to help a lot of people. I will partner up with you guys. So the three of us, pretty much the formulation is mine. They're doing all the logistics. We got the Health Canada approval, and last year we got the FDA approval to market. So everything is great. And I sourced all the ingredients here in Canada. So just in case, God forbid, we have another pandemic, we don't have to wait for shipments from elsewhere. So
Wow. So even the ginsengs you're getting
all of
there.
it, all of it is from here.
Wow.
So
Cool.
we have very local, great farms here in Vancouver and British Columbia area. So we source a lot of it, and that's one of the reasons. I know that I can rely on the quality assurance. I can rely on the fact that we know the vendors, and the pharmacy, the pure pharmacy, are very, very, I would say, meticulous about a lot of these things that their ingredients that they get. So they're doing a great job. And so, yeah, that was one of the biggest problems that I didn't want to source it out there. I said, I'm not going to produce a thing that, ingredients come from all over the world. And no, I want it to be here, North American style. If something happens, I want to make sure that we have access to it so people can take it. And that was like we about a year and a half of discussion until we approved this whole thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. And you have sage in your formula, which is not something that you see in, I don't mean almost any other
Yes,
concussion formula that I've ever seen on the market. And so I think maybe it's something that you see more so in Europe. How did you come across this, using sage? And I know that it helps with the preventing the breakdown of acetylcholine in the brain. Is that one of the reasons why you chose it?
perfectly stated. It's also a tonifier of the neurotransmitters. So I was going through some of the classes with Dr. Gordon, who had one of the first traumatic brain injury concussion classes in the A4M courses. He was talking about SAGE because of the European studies that they have done and some of these things, and I kind of like was jotting down notes. And so when I would go back to the hotel or in the plane coming back home, I would go over to my notes. And I'm like, SAGE. I remember that was a detoxifier for to get rid of bad jujus or things like that, right? It's like, all right.
Are we lighting your pills on fire and smoking them?
Yeah. And if there's pure darkness, you can always set it on fire, have some light. No, that's true. That it prevents it's one of the breakdown inhibitors for acetylcholine. So you can actually maintain the acetylcholine in your system for a little longer time. So we realize that a lot of people are acidic in nature, you know, the stress, lack of sleep, and so on and so forth. So if you take a supplement, the longer you have it in your system to be acted upon and reacted upon, the better it is. So sage is one of those ingredients that actually streamlines the neurotransmitters and helps the tonification and so on and so forth.
Right. So you have the sage, and then you have the huperzine A, which
Yeah.
is also an acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, so helps to prevent the breakdown of acetylcholine. Then you have the alpha GPC and the choline to actually give the building blocks to produce acetylcholine. So you have like all kinds of amazing ingredients that work synergistically to
Yeah.
support that particular neurotransmitter. But then you also have amino acids and the rhodiola, which
Hmm.
support the dopamine. And so I think it's so cool how you've just like taken different ingredients that all kind of like I said support the neurotransmitters that the brain needs in order for people to feel balanced and be able to modulate better.
100%. Thank you for bringing that up. The idea of this whole thing was at the end of the day was how you can improve and regulate the glucose in the brain for the neurotransmitters to do their job properly. Because I've taken a lot of these things in isolation, by themselves without any kind of tonifiers or without any kind of chaperone of any sort. I was on adaptogens for a while. It's like, yeah, great. I still needed my 3 espressos during the day. I guess that was more habit than anything else. However, I realized that so this is the cool thing is that I had a whiteboard and I started kind of like putting all these things and see exactly which one does what. And then at the end of the day, I wish there was ChatGPT at the time when I was formulating this. Like, hey, you know what? I'm going to put this in. Tell me which ones work together and which ones are inhibitory to another one and contraindicated, etc. Right? It wasn't there, so it took a while. That's probably why it took so long to create it. But one of the best parts of this, the day one, the AM one, because it's more of a performance phase component, it increases, obviously, it reduces your crash during the day. So you're going to use your glucose and ketones a little bit better during the day. It kind of allows you to have a fuel efficiency component during the day. But the nighttime was one that it was very challenging when I was studying a lot of this other formulas out there. I was like, okay, you know what? This has this, but that doesn't make sense. in paper is really good. It's well studied, but it doesn't really do anything synergistic with this other things. Until I found out a combination that it was incredible, which was, I'm going to give you the three main ingredients: the St. John's wort, and then 5-HTP, magnesium, and berberine. Those four things together, um, they allowed me to have a better, deeper sleep. And so, generally speaking, I was a lousy sleeper. I was always sleeping with one eye open because the way I was brought up in the war zone in Iran and all that stuff. You have to be very vigilant about many things. That's how I was built. And then when I had kids, if the moment any of the kids in the other room would turn, toss, or anything like that, I would hear the blanket, I was awake. You know, I just couldn't handle it. So I would never get the proper deep sleep that I needed until the Aura Ring came into play and all that stuff. So I started testing it. I was like, oh my God, I have like 22 minutes of deep sleep, and that's not enough for regenerative purposes. So I'm kind of destroying myself. And then when I started taking,
hence the 3 espressos.
yes, well, no, I gave up the espressos like 5-6 years ago with COVID. I did.
Good for
I
you.
promise. Thank you. I only do one now. But so it wasn't allowing me to deep sleep. Nothing. It wasn't my thing. When I started taking the AM, I started with two pills in the morning and then two at night. I was okay with. I would still have like really light sleep at night. I would still wake up, but I would go back to sleep a lot better. Then when I found out the all the studies that we did with family members and some patients recently, we found out that dose of 4 p.m. was the best for maintaining I would say 40 to 45% increase in my deep sleep. So I went from, it was incredible at the beginning. And then the more I went to 2 a.m. and then 4 p.m., 2 a.m., 4 p.m., at that rate, it worked beautifully for me. So I started getting like 1 hour, 35 minutes of deep sleep, unheard of in my life. And so I would wake up, I was like, oh my God, I feel so good. I just feel so clear. So it was great. And then so we picked from about 100 of our patients and we started testing it. And then the majority of people, they would say, number one, the daytime one, the AM one, gives them more focus. That's it. Okay, fine, no problem. I'm totally okay with that. The night one is the winner, specifically because people, I don't know how many people, like about 30, 40 of them, they said never had a sleep like this in an entire life. And they are seeing much more benefits the day after. They feel clearer, less cognitively challenged. And so at nighttime, they usually like to go to sleep. Before, they just didn't like to go to sleep. Like right now, I love sleeping. I wasn't like that at all. I was like, I would love to
And
go.
I mean, so many people have tried so many over-the-counter products for sleep. So it's incredible that you're getting those kinds of results with this specific formulation. How
Yes.
soon before sleep are people taking it? Is it an hour, 2 hours?
No, so it's at nighttime before you. If usually for me is about 2 hours before going to bed, and empty stomach.
Hmm.
So the morning formula, the AM formula, has to be taken with food or after food because otherwise there are multiple vasodilators in there, so you can get nice and rush, etc. I like that feeling, but a lot of people don't like it because they turn red and they get really itchy, burning sensation. But AM formula after food, but PM no problem. And 2 hours. I have a patient who takes it at 7 and she goes to bed at 11 or 12. She says she hits the REM and also deep sleep, but not enough. So I always tell her, like, just push it a little further, closer to your sleep, so you have a little longer deep sleep. I'm not sure if she's doing it or not, but then you have to play around with that time, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
But it's
Sure.
been phenomenal for a lot of patients. We had a couple of offers from uh, one of the patients who owns a supplement company here. I was like, you know what? I want to purchase that formula from you. just the nighttime because that's a big problem. It's like, sorry, man, no, this we haven't even started yet with this formula, so it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, talk about kind of who the ideal patient is or person is for the formula, and then maybe also if there are contraindications or any kind of interactions people need to be concerned about.
For sure. Um, I did it for me post-concussively.
Mhm.
So the target was more of a brain injury, concussion, post-concussion, any symptoms associated with that. And over 12 years of testing it and doing certain things, and I noticed like there are certain parameters that I tested. It was a speed of reaction, it was a memory and cognition, stuff like that. I would do quite often the peak training app, or I would do the Brain HQ, and I would test myself. I did the CNS vitals and try to see if there's any changes methodically, etc. And some patients, family, and so on and so forth. We noticed that in general, patients who are dealing with any sort of cognitive decline or impairment, anything, whether it's mild cognitive impairment or decline, they benefit from it because all those neurological issues are very much associated primarily with a dysregulation of glucose. So the fuel efficiency is down, hence, the neurons behave the way they behave and they become what they become. And so, generally speaking, now we have patients that are dealing with functional movement disorder. So I would give them certain dosage, specific dosage for them. I would say it's like you start with 2 and 2, like 1 and 1, then 2 and 2 the second week, and then you keep the 2 for morning and then 4 at nighttime. If they are on any kind of SSRIs, antidepressive medication, they can't take the PM formula because it has the St. John's wort and 5-HTP. So you're trying to avoid any kind of serotonin syndrome. People
Mhm.
who are taking blood thinners, for instance, they shouldn't be taking it. So anyone with Coumadin, warfarin, and so on and so forth, they shouldn't be really on Plavix. They shouldn't be taking it, or they can only take the dose of 1 and 1. Blood pressure medications for AM, if they are the higher dose of blood pressure medication, they shouldn't be taking more than 1 AM or 1 PM, essentially. But I usually tell them, like, look, if you're taking any of this medication, don't take a chance. Just eat normally, just eat food and do exercises. You're better off that way. So I don't like to. I want to be cautious, because I don't know
Right.
everyone's metabolic system. So I don't, frankly. But right now, people with dementias, people with movement disorders, we see a lot of people with dysautonomia. So the dysautonomia, we do it on a gradual increase of dose, and when we get them to a level where they can actually hit the heart rate that they want to without really fatiguing or getting all the symptoms, then I know that their metabolic capacity is increased. Therefore, I can give them the higher dose that is suitable for them. But in general, pretty much anyone with a brain should be taking it. You know, and me not. I'm saying this not as a salesperson, but as a clinician that I think everyone needs a boost in their neurotransmitters because the way life is.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and I think one of the things that was like an aha moment for me early on when I was studying functional neurology was we so often hear, oh, well, serotonin is made in the gut. And it's like, yes, but most of that serotonin stays in the gut and the brain. There's different parts of the brain that produce serotonin and parts of the brain that produce all these other neurotransmitters. And so, obviously, if you get a brain injury, that might impact your brain's neurotransmitter making factories that are meant to
Absolutely.
make these and release them. And so, yeah, many people do need that support and they need that, metabolic support as well, as far as the glucose regulation,
Yeah,
avoiding the hypoglycemia of, all of that. So
absolutely.
how cool that you made a formula that really goes after that fuel metabolism cycle.
Thank you. And I honestly, for years, I was looking for a formula that was addressing that. When I found out that really all these things is associated with the fuel delivery, that's your autonomic nervous system, and everything is controlled by that. But I looked and looked and looked, and was like, no, not really. You could see on the shelves of different health food stores things like glucose regulator or sugar crave down, And you look at the formula and all that stuff. It's like, okay, great. This is for sugar. So a lot of people with diabetes would take it. And because of the fact that I was on keto diet for a long time and I kind of modified it, I'm thinking, you know what? Ketones are fantastic for a lot of these people who have issues with glucose regulation, or glucose delivery. So why not creating that aspect? So one of the combinations of formula is the that affects the lipolysis, a breakdown of the fat in the system is the methionine, inositol, and choline. But then choline is one of the precursors to acetylcholine. But also methionine helps you with your citric acid cycle and the glutamate cycle. So you can place it everywhere and it's going to be used somewhere properly. But if you do it at a lower dose, then the balance is going to go towards the equilibrium where it's needed the most. So for people with brain injuries, for instance, or dementias, for instance, it is going to go towards something that is going to affect their glutathione activation. So if you have glutathione as being one of the most potent antioxidants for the nervous system, for the brain specifically, and the lungs, look, should I use this terminology? Killing two birds with one stone, or I can paint two cats with one paint? I don't know. Whatever you think, whatever analogy you want to use. I don't want to upset people.
I've never heard that second one.
I just made it up. So
Okay.
I don't want to offend people. So it worked out beautifully because then that methionine acetylcholine itself is with B12 in this whole thing, it is going to allow you to utilize your fat, then the ketones remaining is going to be utilized by your brain as a source of fuel. So your craving for glucose is going to go further down because you also have Gymnema sylvestre, which is a suppressor of carb craving. So then when you put something like that in, then you'll have a beautiful formula that is going to allow the BDNF to come in and allow the dendritic arborization. And so when you're doing your neuroplasticity exercises, it's going to stick because you're going to create this long-term potentiation. And then when you do that, I mean, it's beautiful. It's so synergistic. That's why I said it's a neurosynergy type of formula. You can't rely on this alone. You have to do some brain work where you're taking this stuff so you can actually, it's just like when you're taking creatine and you start, lifting weights. So you're going to use that to your benefit, which is fantastic. And so this is the same thing. If you take this supplements, you're better off doing some sort of a brain exercises, whether it's Peak Brain Training app or Brain HQ or or Lumosity, whatever you like, right? If you do those things, you're going to use those ingredients of the supplement and you push it towards the area that is the weaker area. And then that's how you're going to utilize them.
So essentially, it's supporting your brain's metabolic flexibility to use ketones and glucose.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was a weird kid. I started working at a health food store when I was 15 years old.
Oh my God. That's great.
Yeah. And back then there weren't really like laws about, employees giving out healthcare advice. And so, as a sponge, like back then I already knew that I wanted to study, herbal medicine and nutrition and functional medicine, all this good stuff, right? And so I was like a little sponge. I just soaked everything up. And I'll never forget, people would come in and say, oh, I'm carb cravings and I want to lose weight. And I'd be like, oh, you need the Gymnema sylvestre. And, I'd go and pick that off the shelf and give it to them. And
That's great. That's awesome. Well, you have a lot of experience then, besides
yeah.
being an acupuncturist doctor and as being the
Oh
first
my gosh.
therapeutic
Yeah.
acupuncturist in the world. You know that. You're very well
And
recognized.
And I'm a bit of an anomaly, I guess. Yeah, when I was 17, I had, just gotten my license and my car, and I drove across the country in June when, all the other teenagers were like out, playing on the lake all summer. I jumped in my car and I drove to Rutland, Ohio, which is a town of 300 people in the Appalachian foothills. And I lived in a double wide trailer in the mountains. And I was working for Frontier Herbs because they were doing research to try to figure out how, if you could cultivate things like ginseng and black cohosh and false unicorn and some of these herbal medicines that were becoming extinct or over harvested from wildcrafting. And so, like me, the little 17-year-old
Wow,
living in this double wide trailer in the Appalachian foothills, like doing research on growing ginseng.
that's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been a lifelong passion.
Oh my God. I only got to know ginseng, the word ginseng, when I was like 29 years old. That's
Well,
crazy.
and it's hard to find high quality ginseng. I mean, those roots have to be, aged or have to have been in the ground for
Yeah.
5 years or more. And so, yeah, I mean, being able to cultivate the high quality herbs that really do still have those medicinal effects is it's becoming harder and harder.
Yes, we have, luckily in Vancouver, we have a very large Asian population. And so they have mastered the art of growing a lot of these herbs. And we have a lot of
Awesome.
cold areas. So, they have it on the mountains. Part of the mountains is basically their
Mhm.
ginseng. So when the winter time, when you have the snow, they dig it out and you have like the one of the highest quality ginsengs here. And so
Well, I
that was,
bet the soil there is incredible.
oh, it's phenomenal. Yeah. It's just the weather sometimes, you know. You've lived in what am I right? You lived in Portland? You were in
I was in Bend, so I was in the
in
Pacific
Bend. Yeah.
Northwest. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
for a long time. Yeah.
So that's
Hmm.
the kind of climate that we have here. But of course, a lot of snow in the mountains around Vancouver. So yeah, we have the climate that a lot of things can grow here, and then we have awesome. We have a lot of Indian population here. We have a lot of Chinese population. So a lot of the, Indian herbs that we need, they have it here. So they have.
Hmm.
It's fantastic. It's like it's been a blessing to have to be here in Vancouver and be able to source these things to, to for our contributions.
Exactly.
You know.
I mean, when you look at the herbs in the formula, it's a very multi-international
Very,
herbal formula. You've got your Ayurvedic herbs, your Chinese herbs, your
that's
Western
true.
herbs, and they're all being grown where you live, which is even cooler.
Perfect. All formulated by a Persian, Spanish, Canadian American dude.
There you go.
You just need to put a United Nations logo on it. That's all.
Oh, funny. I love it.
That's
So,
fun.
do you still play soccer?
Absolutely. Yes.
Hmm.
If I don't, I can't be a good husband. I can't be a good dad. I can't be a good doctor.
That's how I feel about exercise in general, but I get it.
Awesome. Yeah, it has become part of me. And the time that I couldn't play it, it was the death of me, and
Hmm.
almost literally. And so I found a way to eventually overcome that and try to transmit that to my kids, to my patients, that you need to have a passion when you live on this planet. Without it, you're a dead man walking. So, and that's what I learned from Dr. Thurlow. And it's been probably the motto of my life all the way through today. Besides that, also, I try to encourage people to disassociate themselves from their diagnosis because everyone comes with a diagnosis and just I know I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, of course. It's a disclaimer. I am not claiming to be one, but I think you need to be able to portray and inform your patients that they were not they were not born with that diagnosis for the most part, especially in the neurological world. And if they were not born with it, they can dissociate themselves from it and give hope a chance because there are many ways that patients can get better. And I am not going to make ever they claim that this formula is going to save lives at all, not even close. Simply, it's a tool for them to feel a little better, a little sharper during the day, be able to sleep better at night. But they have to do brain exercises. They have to go for walks. They have to, breathe oxygen. They have to move. Now, that's really important. So I think for me, um, being biased in what I do, I love what I do because I was a patient before and I went through everything that most of my patients went through, including the seizures, including the dizziness for 2 years, including the fainting episodes, and so on and so forth, and close to really pull my, get rid of my life because I just didn't need it anymore without soccer. So I'm back on and I'm going to tell them, look, if I can do it, you can do 10 times better. Why? Because I have the information and the experience. I'm going to give it to you to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Just accept it. If you want to get better, receive it. Allow the reception of that, and I'll help you here. Whatever you need, we'll make it happen. So that's why we kind of created a really cool multidisciplinary model. We have a medical doctor who's a functional medicine doctor. We have a naturopath here. We do IV therapies. We have kinesiologists who do the neuro rehab exercises and treatments for me. We have another chiropractor. We have an acupuncturist who's fantastic. He was a patient of mine 6 years ago with a lot of dizziness and upper cervical instability and so on and so forth. Post concussion, then he got the best of the best treatments from an acupuncturist, and then so he disappeared for a few years. He came back. He called me. He was like, "Hey, I want to come in and I want to talk to you." I was like, "Oh, what happened to you?" It's like, "I'm doing great, but I want to come and talk to you." And he said, "Look, I became an acupuncturist because I felt so great after that treatment, after this guy's treatment, that I dropped everything and I went to become an acupuncturist. And so I'm here to give that service to your clinic."
Wow.
I love that. This is fantastic. And so my wife was an acupuncturist. I mean, she was an acupuncturist by trade, but since we moved back to Canada, uh, she was like, "I'm not going to go back to school." And she practiced 10 years in California with me. But then over here, they wanted the boards, they wanted more classes, and so on and so forth. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do that with 3 kids. There's no way I can go to school again with 3 kids. So she is no longer practicing with me, of course, but I would have loved to have always an acupuncturist on my team because we did so well, because it's such a needed component of healthcare. So now Adrian is our acupuncturist. Yeah, a couple of other patients of mine, they became our kinesiologists because we kind of saved their livelihood. They came back you know, to live again like young people, and they went to kinesiology school, and then now they're working with me, which is fantastic. So everybody who was working here, one way or another, had an experience with our clinic, with the neurology, with acupuncture, with functional medicine. So they're very coherent. It's a beautiful, coherent team. So we're
It
like,
sounds like it.
it's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
this
Well,
office, you're always laughing and having fun.
tell people where they can find your clinic, and do you have a website, and
Yes.
where specifically are you located? British Columbia?
We're in British Columbia. We're in Vancouver, in the heart of downtown Vancouver.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful view that I have right now of water, and the buildings here in front of me is gorgeous. We are in Vancouver. The name of the clinic is Canadian Brain Performance and Neuroplasticity Centers. And right now we have one location. We are planning to have another location about 30 kilometers away, or I would say about in miles, probably about 18, 19 miles away. So yeah, the website is, well, if you go Canadian Brain Performance, we probably pop out, pretty quickly. Mm, We do a good work with people, and people come in, they see hope, to be honest with you, and they know that we are not working in the system, the public system, because what we do, like our assessments are 3 hours long. And so, the public system doesn't cover this at all. I don't take insurance. I don't take motor vehicle accidents directly to build them. I don't do that, to be honest with
Hmm.
you. I
Yeah,
think
it puts too many constraints on what you're trying to
way too
accomplish.
many, way too many. I already got,
Yeah.
uh, I'm not going to be rude, but I got hurt in the US and I practiced for 14 years in Santa Monica, California. With the insurance companies, I was a provider with everything, the PPOs and the HMOs, the ASHPs, and so on and so forth. It wasn't good at all. It's just that it doesn't allow people to take their health in their hands. And so they always look for probably the lesser of the prices. And then sometimes you don't get the best quality. And I was a patient myself in that arena, and I realized why I wasn't taken care of when I was going through this. Um,
Hmm.
and so I understand that. But when I see the patients, when we see the patients as a team here, that patient becomes our goal, and it becomes the basically we bend backwards to make sure the patient gets back to normal life, and that's what we do. And it's so again, as I tell you, every single day that I come to work, Ayla, it's a new thing. It's fun, and I love it when I deal with the patients. It's so good.
Awesome. Well, and then where can people find the CereFLEX AM PM?
CereFLEX AM PM, they can, if they're local in British Columbia, they can go to Pure Pharmacies. If not, they can go on the web, and that's on cereflexlabs.com, CereFLAX labs.com. And usually, I think the way we're doing it, if they subscribe for 3 months, they get about 15 to 20% off, or they can just order one package. The package is made of AM and PM. It's good for a month, but the majority of the times I do recommend people to start with two in the morning and two at night. The full dose is four, but I always say you want to build into the system as opposed to go harsh on the system.
Right.
Gradually build it, especially if people who have dysautonomias and the POTS issues and they don't have really good gastrointestinal system, you want to build the system up. So you don't want to go too harsh with too many nutrients that you're going to be taking in capsules. So gradual builds, and so one package can last you good 2 months, frankly, and it could be a little bit more. The price is a little bit more than other ingredients, other supplements, simply because you have two supplements in one, and you have a lot of ingredients.
Well, it's more like 40 supplements in one. In one.
You got it. That's right. It's
Yeah.
pretty much that, like 39 supplements in one. So, and if it lasts you 2 months, it's very cheap. I can't say cheap. It's very economical
Uh-huh.
for you to
Yeah.
purchase.
Yeah.
But I did it because I know people need it, and I want to make sure that people get access to it, so they don't have to take a second mortgage to buy supplements. Let's
Mhm.
put it this way.
Yeah. So at this point, your distribution is in Canada and the United States,
And the
then.
United States as well too.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Got it.
people who are in US, our we produce it here, we ship it to US, and basically it's a 1 to 2 days delivery. And I think with subscription you get free delivery, and I think also 15 to 20% off. And so patients are able to purchase it. If they want to try it for 1 month, they can do it. And if they like it, they can stay with it. If not, then many ways to do this.
Awesome. Well, I will put all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show,
I
sharing your
appreciate it.
generous time with us. This has been fantastic. And
Thank you.
I love the formula you've created. I love all the herbs that you have in it and the fact that you're respecting the natural circadian rhythms of the body in terms of the timing of everything. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity, Ayla, and thank you for everything you're doing. And kudos to you for being the first acupuncturist in the Carrick world. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
A
Well,
pleasure.
every day I have to try to live up to that. So
Thank you. You did an awesome work. Thanks for your patience again. I know we've been trying to get together for the past 3 months, but we made it.
uh, I'm persistent.
Thank you. Keep up the awesome
Yeah.
work. You take care of
Uh,
yourself. Bye.
awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Hang out for a little bit
Sure.
here.